All right, well, welcome to OPC Season 2. We're on to Week 1. It is day number 2, so thank you for joining us again. It's about to head into the action for day 2. I'm, of course, AVRL. It is just me once again tonight, back with the solo custom solo queuing OPC tonight. So hopefully my duo queue partner will be coming back, but it is me, the Overwatch Swiss Army Knife. I'm going to be your host, your commentator, analyst, and translator tonight. It's about to head into 3 more matches of OPC Season 2 action. First match coming up is Machi versus AHQ. So we have seen a little bit of both of these teams already this weekend. Machi coming off 0-3 from last night, and AHQ coming up 3-0. So before we get into any of that, I'm going to quickly explain the OPC format to all of you. So if you're not too familiar with how OPC runs, 6 weeks of regular season play, double round robin. Each team will play each other twice. 8 teams will go down to 4. The top 4 teams after 2 round robins will play in a single elimination where 3 weeks will take place, 1 week for each of the semi-finals, and then of course the finals are now the teams side by side. Machi is the home team, AHQ is the away team, as we're about to take a closer look at the rosters as well. Home team advantage, of course, in the OPC does mean you get to select maps 1, 3, and 5. The away team selects maps 2 and 4, and the maps are in a defined order as well, going from control to hybrid to assault to escort and back to a hybrid as well. If you pick the map, you also get to pick the side, so pretty big advantage all around. Each team will have a chance to be the home side at least once in the round robin, and then away on the other side of the round robin. We're going to go through some of the players here. We've already seen No Talk. We'll get Nuns on the Machi side as well. So Machi had, I would say, a very solid start from yesterday's performance. It was a 3-0 victory over the new roster of Mega Thunder. Mega Thunder had some issues that they had to deal with yesterday. They also had a lot of brilliant moments that hopefully maybe today, later on in the evening, they can show us. But for now, Machi had a, I would say, very clean performance, but you do have to question somewhat how they're going to take that up now against AHQ. A lot of these members, in fact, every single member on this roster returning from the previous season. That's the crown for you, the main tank on your screen at the moment. Machi Esports finished in 5th place last season, so looking for a little bit of a better result this season. AHQ, of course, finishing in 3rd place. And new member here on your screen is Rapid. He's a Tracer specialist, only recently getting into Overwatch in March, and only recently getting onto the AHQ roster. So we talk about this AHQ roster. This is a team that has, I would say at least yesterday, really come up at least and met my expectations for what this team could achieve, and then a little bit more. AHQ had some issues last season as consistently being that 3rd team in that playoffs and never really being able to break the mold of the top 2 that on your screen is Hiki. Last season he was called Lazy Titan, so a bit of a name change on that one, and Kerry's moving from the substitute position into the core spot now for the team as well. So very much a, I'd say, a bit of a star player on the AHQ roster from the previous season. That of course means that Eddie Boss and Cowman, the twins from AHQ, have departed to leave for military service, so wish them the best of luck on that one. Crappy, the main shot caller of the team for AHQ as well. So I guess the big question for this matchup has to be, when you really think about AHQ versus Machi, Machi had not taken a single match off of AHQ in the previous season. Some maps were definitely taken there by Machi, but it's a big ask. Now, coming into the new season, Machi have had a strong start. AHQ have also had a very strong start. AHQ faced off against Liveland Supreme yesterday. 3-0 was their scoreline. Gotta say the first map, Nepal, was rather close between the 2 teams, and we went on to Eichenwald a little bit less close, and by the time we made it onto the 3rd map, you gotta say it was a bit of a one-sided affair. It definitely looked like AHQ were in full control of that match, and we don't want to, hopefully if you're on the Machi side, you don't want to see a repeat of that performance, as Machi, say, kind of a close team in terms of skill level to what Liveland Supreme have displayed so far. First map through, we picked now from Machi, and that is going to be Lijiang Tower. Machi, of course, on the home side, they'll be able to pick the 1st map, of course, and the 3rd map. The 5th map, if we make it that far, and this could actually be a very close series. Now, Machi bringing in the full team from Season 1 once again, making a strong statement that they're saying, look, we don't have the issues, we don't have anything we really realistically want to change up here. This is exactly how we want to run the team. Substitute member Rai is coming back. No role swaps either. Everyone is playing exactly the same roles the same heroes doing the same thing from last season. The only thing much you want to change now is the results from last season. They do not want a repeat of 5th place. Certainly you don't want 6th to 8th place either. But breaking that into that top 4 is something that Machi were very much looking at last season. Their big rivals in this competition, Hong Kong Attitude, were definitely making it very difficult for Machi to break in through. Those two teams were fighting very, very close. And of course, Hong Kong Attitude had a great display last night against Team Ardian, who many thought and still do think, and I'm kind of on that board as well, as the favorites of, or one of the favorites of the tournament. So there it is, both coaches on both sides. Find a few words to the team. Cassis on the Machi side and Nitor on the AHQ side, both returning staff members for both teams as well. So look forward to seeing how both of these teams do on the Lijiang Tower map. And before we even head into Lijiang Tower, something that's quite interesting to me about the AHQ side as well, you really consider their players. The big problem for AHQ of last season was they really lacked that strong tracer play. This was one of the teams that was sort of built during the triple tank era, so they had very strong tank players. Kalman came in as a flex tank player. He played the Hog, he played the Zaya, he played, you know, I think a little bit of Diva on the side, but predominantly a flex tank play. He had to change onto DPS partway through that season to sort of accommodate the meta changes that were happening in Overwatch at the time. And AHQ had a dominant run during the last season. They had a complete clean sweep through the second round robin. 7-0 was their scoreline. They beat every single team, including Blank Esports, including the Flash Wolves, with that original roster. Carries was a big part of that, subbing Eddie Boss out, bringing Carries into that support position. His Ana play as the Zenyatta play, both phenomenal for this team, and Dizzy, of course, as a soldier player. Now, AHQ also tried out some triple DPS in the last season. You had Hiki, otherwise known as Lazy Titan, pull out the soldier. He still does pull out the soldier from this season. We did get a little bit of a glimpse of that in last night's match as well. So a much flexible roster now for AHQ. Their biggest problem was, of course, that second DPS slot. You had Dizzy, great soldier player, up and coming on the tracer as well, but they never really had that tracer. So this is what Rapid fills in. He fills in the boots of what you could say is almost two places. He's got Calman and Eddie Boss's positions to fill. Got the head into first map, which is going to be Gardens, and I'm going to say this red side, yep, AHQ indeed. They were the one team that kind of brought out this the Reinhardt in the last match. We saw that on Nepal a little bit. We saw that on Shrine. We saw that in Sanctum. One of the few teams that do want to try this, but Eric, probably not the go-for for this map, and I do strongly believe that Tracer and Soldier is their best line, and Nuns on the other side as Machi is going to be playing the Genji, so he does in that role as well. The opening skirmish here, establishing ground control, very important for AHQ, running that Soldier. Must make sure that Soldier is well protected. Nuns already low, it could be a really big problem here, but early pickoffs for Machi so far does say that they have control of the area, and they will now try to convert a few additional extra kills, get themselves onto that cap as it opens up in about 4 seconds. Good trades from AHQ as well on the opposite side, but unfortunately, losing positioning is probably the key factor for Machi, or rather that Machi should have used to take down AHQ here. Dizzy's still onto that Soldier, needs to find somewhere where he can stay still, be incredibly impactful, and not be pressured too hard by the duo that's Kant and Notice. And by the way, Kant is hitting some incredible pulse bombs, at least from yesterday's match. So if he continues doing that, this game's going to be a huge one for Machi Esports as they already take the lead, 15% to 0. It'll be a slow move around onto the white room for AHQ. Now, it's probably a much safer position for Dizzy to be in. Rapid going down is not a good start, though. That is not what you want as AHQ Esports. Kiyomi, definitely a support play coming into his own as well. I'm really looking forward to that 1v1 battle between him and Carriers should it ever come up in this matchup. There's Carriers with the Transcendence available as well. It's going to have to be a little bit of a rotation. Now for AHQ Esports do have to collect Rapid coming up from spawn. That's a quick sound barrier. Did get pressured out on one side. We are looking at a bit of a 1v1 as Nuz goes into white room. Straight into a Transcendence. Well placed one, well timed by Carries. And Nuz doesn't really find any kills yet. Matrix does run up, but Dizzy in a little bit of trouble here. Does get blown up by No Talk's mech. So Machi so far do control this close tight area. Kant is even cleaning up kills into the side as well. And this is going to be a little bit of a, I would like to say, failed fight for AHQ, but actually they're still able to pick up a few extra kills inside. In No Talk's mech, Rapid finally goes down to Kant, and the progress really ticks up here for Machi. 72% still as the ultimates come out. D-Crown holding this one down. Carriers can do nothing about that. say we're probably going to be heading into at least 85-ish% mark here. It does look like will end up being a bit of a reset for AHQ, but not if Dizzy has something to say about it. Another Matrix is going to have to try again. I mean, just really didn't get too much work done there. 92% still ticking up here. AHQ still looking for options. Rapid, if you can get a good pulse bomb here, could be the opening that AHQ need, as they do actually get the camp over in the sort of final moments. So 97% rather. Definitely going to be a difficult position to come back from. But AHQ, the work is definitely cut out for them. They're going to have to hold this for a very long time. And Dizzy, you got to consider, tactical visors haven't been great so far. Well blocked by No Talk. The Matrixes has always been there. Even at the cost of his own life sometimes. It's a good stick. He's not going to collect any kills off that. Unfortunately, carries back now. That Transcendence one more time. Both Transcendences pretty well timed so far. That's probably not going to look for too much. Just take the dive off the side. It's going to be a full reset now for Machi Esports. You have to consider on the Machi side that they haven't got too much time to waste here. They have a big advantage. Started 97% to 0%. They do not want to squander that. A couple of fights now have really gone AHQ's way after a couple of good Transcendence plays by carriers. But they do need the DPSs to really come in as well. Crappy's got that sound barrier to really hold the fort as he does use that now. Nuns, second time around for the Dragon Blade. Let's see if he can find any kills with this one. And so far, finding nothing but thin air. Finds a monkey to the face. Eric takes him down. And so far, this looks like AHQ all over the scoreboard. Can't take him dive over the side. No Talk with a mech over the side as well. This is going to be what looks like potentially the final push on through for Machi. If they fail this push, it's definitely going to be desperation time with AHQ taking it into the OT. Hitting that 99%. It's definitely a really big comeback from AHQ to so far be able to come back from 0 up against a 97. That is going to be a quick sound barrier to come out. No Dragon Blade this time around. Still waiting for that pulse bomb as well. Good poop kill so far. Double kill. Now 2 more extras from Machi Esports. They are definitely using everything that they can here. 1 point flip could secure this for Machi Esports. They are 97%. I don't believe AHQ have what it takes to be able to come back in if the point does get flipped. So I think for AHQ, they've got to hold on to this. Dizzy, we've talked about his tactical visor, now 99%. Someone has to get on. Someone does, in fact, trigger the overtime. Rapid down, it will be a 5 versus 6 count with the pulse bomb as well. A lot of players still stuck on that bridge. Someone's got to get on here. Dizzy down. He must have got booped up on the side of the bridge, and that's going to be no tactical visor for AHQ. Running out of options here. No one's alive, realistically. Only 3 members of Hiki's got to get himself onto the point. He's stuck outside near the wide room. He's going to get demech'd. In fact, not even demech'd in time. He's just not going to touch the point whatsoever. Machi Esports 1-0 onto Lijiang Gardens. They will take, but rough start for AHQ. They had a very large deficit to climb back on from. 0 to 97, they managed to get it over 90 themselves. The camp back from Machi Esports. 97 is very difficult to sort of come back from. It's almost as bad as 98. You almost wish it was 99% because 99% immediately triggers the overtime. Someone on the AHQ side was very pressured to have to trigger the OT to start with. Then you really needed the tactical visor play from Dizzy, I suppose, to secure that one up. It just didn't really get the opportunity to. The other 2 tactical visors, completely eaten by No Talk. So Dizzy has been suppressed as one of the key players on the AHQ side. Hasn't had the impact he's looking for just yet. Now onto the Reapian. This is now that tank line I was talking about that they ran on the Paul yesterday. Bring it out one more time, and Dizzy is in close quarters, exactly what he's looking for here. D-Crown, no chance to get anything done there. This time the dive from Machi does not work. You cannot dive into a lineup like this, not in the closed, confined spaces, and Machi Esports going to get torn apart by this tank combo. Eric's, Reinhardt, Hiki's, Zaya. Of course, Dizzy on the Reaper again. Keeping Rapid on that Tracer, smart moves on. He's definitely been someone that's performing. Now the spawn camp. The obligatory Reinhardt Zaya spawn camp is going to be difficult for Machi to break out of this. No ultimates yet. This was a little bit later in the game. We might see some ultimates being used by Machi. Get a Transcendence in there. That's your option to really break out of spawn camp. With the pulse bomb camp might open things up as well. But otherwise for AHQ, definitely holding strong to the front lines. They have actually backed off a little bit. I think that was realistically coming off the back of camp breaking through. Now the ultimates do come out. It is a nano burst. I couldn't quite catch who the player was. It does look like it went onto Hiki. Graviton available. Probably won't have to use it here. I'm going to guess no. Beautiful sleep onto Kent. Rewind will just save him. But a big struggle for Machi so far. A bit of a far cry from what we saw on the Garden start. The Garden start, again, 97% to 0 was the advantage Machi had, and they, even then, still barely won Gardens. It was a good victory. Here comes Scrap the series. No chance to eat by No Talk. Doesn't look like they're going to get too many kills out of this, so, you know, a few kills in a mech. They'll take it for now, push Machi back, keep racking up that percentage. If you get to about the 80%, I think AHQ can be quite happy with it. Even if AHQ drop this cap around the 80-ish kind of percent, they have enough momentum, they have enough progress they've collected to really, I'd say, take this game all the way, take this game to completion. That's transcendence we're talking about to really open things up. And Nuns, one more time, he has had some success with his Dragon Blade, gets one to Eric. Unfortunately, Dizzy got not a lot done with that Death Blossom on the other side of this, though. So for Machi, DPS is coming out on top, and for AHQ, you're asking for a little bit more out of Dizzy so far. Tactical Visors shut down, Death Blossoms to nil effect, and Eric again sitting on the Earth Shatter. We're looking for that play now. I did mention 80% would have been good for AHQ to leave and end this first cap on. 92 is a little bit better than that still. So, opposite of what we've seen on Garden so far. 97 to 0 was that map. This map is 92 to 0 in AHQ's favor instead. And look at that. That Earth Shatter play from Erican if possible. There it is, down. I believe he caught one member. Now D-Crown's going to come and join the fight as well. Pulse Bomb landed on somebody. Didn't pick up the kills. So far, 1 for 1 is a trade. Nun's going to make it 2 for 1 instead. And Eric after landing a shatter didn't convert enough kills. Rapids down as well. Machi want to keep this one going through just a little bit longer. D-Crown even pushing a few of the AHQ members back towards his own team, looking for those additional kills as they chase them out. But 2 members, at least, of HQ will survive. Living for another fight, and looking for that Graviton Surge next for AHQ. That is where the rotation in terms of ultimates is going to lie for this team. Sitting on not too much energy here. A little bit left to be desired. Nice clip onto Kiyomi. That should be the go button now for AHQ. Sound barrier goes down, but they've already lost 2 members. Can they hold on to this? If they don't hold on to this, it could be all over. Another great Graviton Surge. This is going to pick up a lot more members. Now Dizzy is racking up kills, and he doesn't even need Death Blossom to get there. 93%. Machi have got to get on this. They've got to get on there quickly. And AHQ running straight for the doors. 2 more seconds to go. Someone gets there, and it's getting sleeped. Oh, what a huge shot by Keres. And this guy is such an MVP onto the team. Transcendence and sound barriers being used, one on each side, and the fight does still continue. Machi heavily behind though. It's a great Biota grenade onto Nuns, getting taken down by Keres as well. This man on the back line is unstoppable. And AHQ will clean that one up tight in the series 1-1. If you're not familiar with how a control works on OPC, it is best of 3. So now it is conventionally best of 3, much like the other Overwatch tournaments across the board. International, we're no longer doing best of 5, so there it is, one more opportunity now for both teams, and it has been a closely fought battle. Not in the traditional sense, but it has been back and forth in the sense of Machi very much in the lead for Gardens. Now we go on to Control Center, very much in the lead and in control for AHQ. So we're going to come down to night markets to decide everything once again. Going to put Dizzy now back onto the Soldier. Retire the tank lineup for AHQ for the time being. Dizzy found it difficult to get Tag Visors off in that initial stage of Lijiang Tower onto Gardens. Didn't really find Death Blossoms either on the Control Center, so now looking to see if Dizzy can find a few better ults now. Night markers, this certainly will be his last chance to do it on Control. Kerry is one of the big players from Control Center that we've just seen taking down early. Dizzy down. It's going to be a full retreat from AHQ Esports. Certainly not the start that you wanted. This is very much Machi in control of Gardens, now Machi in control of night markets. The big question here is how much percentage progress is Machi going to get this time around? They've already got a huge one before 97. AHQ got a 92. What is Machi going to get out of this? One more fight win for Machi, and they're guaranteed 50%. There's no way AHQ realistically can come back in a third fight if they do not win the second fight. Crown going down early. It's pretty good for AHQ. Converts on the wrist here. Should be pretty easy from here on, and the DPSs are down. Might look for a little bit of token stall from No Talk. It's not going to stall for very much longer. Kiyomi somewhere around the side as well. Wouldn't be surprised if he's back with his team. 27%, not a bad take from Machi Esports. Not the best take we've seen so far this evening. Be looking to come back in with a couple of ultimates. Now that is the one advantage that they do have. It's the winners of that very first fight. They may have lost that second fight. They didn't lose the entire team, thankfully. Rapid does first ultimate on the AHQ side as well. So we are seeing those lights come up on both sides now. Very closely fought battle inside that little shop area. Pulse Bomb did get eaten. This Pulse Bomb is not even... Whoa! Triple kill! What was that from Ken? We talk about this man landing Pulse Bomb from yesterday's match. He's landing them again and bigger than ever. D-Crown's going to finish up the last couple of members here. And AHQ just going to have to get off this point. Come right back onto Machi's side. That's going to be a replay you'll look forward to. That's not play of the game. I don't know what's going to be play of the game this time around, but Kant, you call someone, this guy's a door buster, this guy's a battering ram, completely opens the cap open right away from AHQ. 41% is their progress so far. That's an early transcendence. We want to get a little bit aggressive here now from Machi. Still haven't used his Ragga Blade here. Still have tools. The self-destruct should keep most of the AHQ members inside their spawner. Here comes Nuns looking for Dizzy. Doesn't find him. Gets an Angry Gorilla instead. Primal Rage will keep him away for the time being. This should allow AHQ to get out of their spawn at the very least. And now Dizzy, he wants to take Visor. Last time he stopped up by the Matrix. This time there's no excuses. One down already. Looking for number 2. Finds number 2. They're making their way around the backside. That should be an easy kill. There's Zenyatta play as well. Yomi does still live for the time being, so Crappy looking for a couple of environmental kills. And meanwhile, the cap does not go over, so AHQ's doing all of this work. They're trying extremely hard around the right side, the left side rather, from their perspective, but the cap does not go through yet. And the Machi members do respawn, and we're still getting progress. 80% now, AHQ. All this effort, all these ultimates, and now double the progress on the Machi side. Nothing to show for it. That's very unfortunate. Fight might as well have been completely reset. Is he in a lot of trouble? Does go down a D-Crown. His offensive transcendences from Kiyomi have been doing a lot of work on the Machi side, and no further ultimates required. This could just be the game. 99%, one last opportunity, and I don't think anyone from AHU can do that. Not this time around. You do not have carries carrying the weight with a brilliant sleep dance or anything like that in AHQ. They're going to drop over in their very first match. You've got to be quite pleased with yourself as Machi Esports. Again, sending a strong statement as the number 5 team coming out of OPC Season 1. He is going to come in through with the play of the game. Can't wonder which one this is going to be. I think it was a Graviton Surge play. Something I like to say about Hiki is, in terms of these Graviton Surges, it is pretty good that he hasn't had any of them either. You are going up against No Talk, and you haven't lost any Graviton Surges, so the Zaya and Reinhardt buffs are into play as well. The Graviton Surge is so good for this team. Unfortunately, not good enough to take the series away. The one stage that they did win, AHQ did win, is that control center stage, and they did get a very big lead. That is the method in which they took that map away. But otherwise, when we go into the other maps, when we really look at where Gardens was, when we really look at where Night Market was a lot closer. We had to flip around immediately, but unfortunately not quite close enough. And when you really look at the stages away from when AHQ could play the heavy tank lineups, that's when they really struggled. As we're about to head into our first replay here, and yep, that was the triple kill stick from Kent. You just see it now in the final moments, and D-Crown cleaning up the rest of the members there. I do not believe AHQ were ready for that. I certainly wasn't, and Kent has been a monster with these pulse bomb sticks throughout this entire week, and let's see if he can keep that up into tomorrow evening as well. Man, this guy's been on fire. Kent's got a little bit of a special story as well, because this is the man who was consistently in the shadow of a lot of great Tracer players in Season 1. Bacon Jack is the one that comes to mind. I Eat You Up from Blank as well was one of the top Tracer players. And then you have guys like Shailin from Hong Kong Attitude really step it up. It was AHQ that really lacked the good Tracer player, although that Cowman really stepped up on that as well. And Kent was always the last guy that you kind of forget to think about. You're like, oh yeah, there's also this Kent guy that we kind of didn't realize was really in the scene. Now he's making quite a big impact on the Machi side. You saw a lot of the impact from his game yesterday was from Kent himself, and this time around from AHQ, it is Kent again. And this would not be a very good way for AHQ to start the season off losing out to Machi. Yes, AHQ have already beaten Liberal and Supreme. Liberal and Supreme are a new team into the scene. A little bit untested, didn't have a good game against, didn't have a good qualifier against Artigot in the OPC Season 2 qualifiers. Now looking for a little bit more in this tournament as we actually head into the bulk, the 6-week regular season phase. So AHQ took that out 3-0, but now coming into this Machi lineup that says we've made no changes, same players, same roles, same opening lineups, even Rai still on the bench. Unfortunately, would like to see Rai maybe come in a later match. There is the available for substitutions in between games now. Map 2, AHQ picks Kings Row. Of course, as the away team, they get map picks 2 and 4. Probably a little bit of a better map for a team that does at least evidently now kind of seem like they quite prefer the Reinhardt Zaya kind of composition. I'm kind of thinking the other way. I'm quite a fan of the Tracer Soldier composition that AHQ have been running so far. So to see them continually using the Ryan Zaya, it's an option for them. That's for sure. That is something that they can run. It's something that they have specialized in. They're one of the few teams from OPC Season 1 that did want to go for the Reinhardt Zaya compositions. Now coming into Season 2, while that combo has been buffed, I don't know if it's been buffed enough. I don't know if it's good enough for them to realistically take wins against some of the upper half teams from the OPC. Difficult to even say upper half now because we're so early into this composition, but certainly the way Machi are playing 3-0 on day 1, now 1-0 so far in this series, they are already looking like one of the upper teams of this competition. We talk about teams wanting to get into playoffs. Machi keep going the way they are, they're going to make playoffs like this, but I think a convincing win against AHQ will certainly cement that. A 3-0 against AHQ will certainly cement themselves as victors against the third place team from OPC Season 1. That'll be a strong, strong opening for Machi Esports too. Even yesterday, you could attest to be maybe somewhat still yet untested. We do want to see a little bit more of this Mega Thunder roster as well. I know they've had some interesting changes, and going up against a veteran team like Machi who have had no changes, you don't have to worry about that synergy. You don't have to worry about this team coordination as we're about to head into now Kings Row. That is a really tall tower. I thought it was Big Ben, but I've been told it's not Big Ben. And I thought, you know, maybe they moved Big Ben all the way to the district of wherever Kings Row is, but apparently not. So there you go. Someone explain that one to me. Should be looking for potentially to have HQ defend first if possible. It is. They do go for the Tracer Soldier gameplay again. Now, Dizzy, one of the better Soldier players from Season 1. I certainly thought he was among the top 3 soldiers, if not even at certain times in the season, the #1 soldier in the tournament. So, really got to leverage his ability in this game to pull his weight. Nun's going to be on the Doomfist for this. So, I do like the height mobility here, and it's sort of a role swap. It is going to be Machi playing the heavy tank lineup, going to go very quickly up into this upper level. Nice punch on the Rapid. Not rapid enough to dodge that one. That is a beautiful one-shot. I'd like to see where the positioning from Dizzy here is because he is on half health. Does just get woken up as well. That is a good bio grenade. Will slow things down for the Machi side. And a mass evacuation from the upper levels of the Alderworth Hotel. Now for AHQ as they've moved onto the other side, but the cap is now contested, and Machi do want to get into this. Nuns is waiting on the side. Could be a 1v1 here. This is very dangerous. But Dizzy, do not attempt to fight him here. Unless, of course, Nuns decides to back off and loses the range. So actually a good duel from Dizzy. Now going to convert into Kant as well. Kant, the Tracer player from the last map that we saw, now onto Reaper. And you almost want to keep this guy at the Tracer. It's almost dangerous to not even run a Tracer here, especially one like Kant who's had such great successes primarily on that pulse bomb. But failure from Nuns to really take down Dizzy there. Nice early kill from him earlier on in the stage where good, well-placed punch straight into Rapid, smashes him into the wall. Couldn't quite find the same success with Dizzy. I'll take even a punch on Dizzy, which would have knocked him off the high ground, would probably take. Rapid's going to look for the play on the side. Oh, gets punched into the wall again. This guy's got no luck. Eric's looking for a little bit of action on the top as well. Doesn't want to get too close to Nuns if he can help it. Dizzy should have already repositioned by now on the opposite high ground, and it will be the tanks, the main 2 tanks. Ekran and No Talk trying to get something started on the cap itself. We did have the nano boost come in from Kent, looking for a little bit extra, looking for the damage. Death Blossom is available. This might be the opportunity to use it, but you got to look for the DMEC. There it is finally. It's not a lot of targets there, but you are looking for cap points. You are looking to get at least that 1/3 to start things off with. Took a couple of dinks from Crappy on the other side, who is actually on the Zenyatta, something we haven't seen him on much so far, at least not last season. Eric is going to be cleaning up the couple of kills there, but finding Kant straight up is definitely not what he was looking for. So this is now working out rather well for Machi Esports off the back of a couple of good kills from both Nuns and Kant. And the Nuns versus Rapid 1v1 is definitely a factor. The self-destruct should be A little bit of a token gesture from AHQ to keep things going, but Dizzy's actually back now. Tactical Visor in play. This is going to be a little bit of fallout now for Machi. They can't afford to play against his Tactical Visor, at least at least without D-Crown's shield there. Remember that Machi are no longer running this Diva from No Talk, so do have to be a little bit more concerned with Dizzy playing on this Soldier. He is a deadly player, but so far Canada's been pretty deadly. He was deadly on the Tracer, and now he's even deadlier on the Reaper, it seems. Nuns finds another kill, this time at least. Not onto Rapid, so Rapid can a little bit of a sigh of relief onto that one as not being the main target of Nuns so far in this matchup. Some good denial of high ground from Canton to Dizzy as well. Certainly understands Dizzy's playstyle here, some of his objectives he's looking for as a Soldier player on his team. A little bit of a replay. This is going to be right before we get the cap. Should be a self-destruct moment in here, if I'm not incorrect. Nope, different moment. But the Graviton Surge on the backside, Kant going in for a couple of kills as well. Yeah, this was definitely the last fight before Machi ended up capping on through. Now they are starting to move through their streaks phase, as you can see. That bottom right side corner, Dizzy on top of the puppy. He's going to find the first kill to Kant. It's going to be Nuns versus Rapid again. Yep, one more rocket punch to the face. I mean, if you're Rapid right now, this is going to be super frustrating. Finds number 2 onto Eric. Turns out Doomfist does beat Winston, at least in that moment. Can't slightly slowed up a little bit, but for Machi Esports to take this in their stride. They continue to win fights, and you actually have a bit of a swap up now from AHQ. He went on to the Zarya. That's going to be quite interesting. Does remove the ability to have the Matrix against Kant's Death Blossom, but otherwise the Graviton could be very useful here, especially against a hero like Doomfist. Piloted by Nuns here as we get the Earthshatter down, looking for Death Blossom kills, finds one, and Nuns is struggling to identify targets here. Rapid does get a kill onto D-Crown. Get a kill also onto Rest, yet if they're not careful, HQ might just bring this one back. The spawns, while this card is in the position it is, do favor AHQ, at least for the time being. Although maybe favor is probably not the right description for it, but it is very even spawns and much. You do not want to take an unfavorable fight here if they can help it. Is he in this 1v1 to dodge the Meteor Strike? Doesn't dodge the further damage attacks from Nuns, as he does clean him up, and now Eric going to go for his last minute stall, and it will be a last minute stall because Machi should cap on out with not a lot more issues, and Dizzy swapping now onto that McCree instead. So we are seeing these lineup changes from AHQ. Eric now onto the Reinhardt. The thing about this Machi lineup is this is the exact composition Machi used on Lunar Colony yesterday against Mega Thunder. So they had some pretty good success there. I would say that against Mega Thunder's Doomfist lineup, Machi did operate that slightly better. Both of the Gravitons did come up, but Dizzy comes out on top with a kill onto Canton. In fact, Dizzy's going quite now, looking for number 3. Rapid, his teammate, will picking that one up. Nice flick onto No Talk, actually. This is a big set of kills now coming on from AHQ Esports, and Dizzy, while he had a little bit of a, I like to say, poor run as McCree yesterday in AHQ's matchup against Liberant Supreme. At least this time now he's showing a little bit more of that prowess. He did play a little bit of McCree on, he played a bit on Nepal, he played a little bit on Eichenwald as well, but it was really his Soldier that was the shining place, so shining glimpse. Machi Esports and Nuns once again. Rocket punches Rapid straight out of this fight. I think Rapid needs to look for a different approach for Nuns. Is definitely picking up a lot of kills. Where was the flashbang from Dizzy there? You got to question that. Nuns is taking a really decent fourth position here. Look out for D-Crown's Earthshatter as well. You have to be considerate of the Meteor Strike coming out from Nuns. There will be combo opportunities. A lot of combo opportunities now for Machi. You have 2 very big damage options in Meteor Strike and also in Death Blossom, as well as 2 CC options. Earthshatter does get slightly blocked out. Can't, yep, number 2. Pulse Bomb picks up 2 again. Hiki with the kill on D-Crown as well. No Talk takes a dive off the side. There it is. I'm sorry, I thought that was Kant because it was so good. Rapid actually got that double kill onto Kant, so the other way around. So I guess Rapid getting his revenge a little bit because, look, Nones has been completely knocking this guy straight out of fight. This is boxing right now. It's been like 3 rounds in a row where he's just completely knocked around. Rapid finally swings back. Good pulse bomb by him as well, really stopping up the Machi attack. Done 40 seconds now remaining. 5 ultimates available. No Talk looking to get number 6 now on that board for Machi Esports. And then we'll have the full Christmas tree lit up right on time for December. Graviton Surge now from He. Need to get rid of that shield if you want to get the death by the Deadeye into effect. Does catch D Crown, so it does shoot through the remainder of that shield. Good pickups nonetheless from AHQ. Machi were very reserved, did not spend anything there, and they have to be considerate of the time of remaining 10 seconds. And they got to take a pretty close fight here. If they can't get past this front line of Eric and Hiki, it's going to be all over. Still have to consider the Earth Shatter from Hiki. It does get blown. Didn't quite see what he landed there. Kills coming in on both sides, and a lot more kills coming up from Machi. They are now into overtime. Cannot leave this cart whatsoever. Dizzy going down late is going to affect this respawn pattern for AHQ. You need tanks alive here. It's just rapid. You can't afford to get spawn camped here. He has to just dive onto this card against 6 members. It's so difficult. McCree flashbang there as well. Now comes the rest of the AHQ members, and this is going to be a very difficult situation for them to play. And Nuns looking for kills on the backside. Does get pressured out a little bit from Rapid. Flashbang lands, but it's not going to be quite enough. D-Crown cleaning up a lot of members. Dizzy in the final moments looking for a kill. The Deadeye finds nothing. Cant on the back line does take him down as well. This should be a cap on through for Machi Esports. It did take a long time. Capped on through in overtime, but they got there in the end. Hard fought by Machi Esports to clean that one up. A lot of difficult moments in there. First cap was an interesting one. They had a very slow start, but eventually got one in there. Good Graviton placement by No Talk, and the Archway really stopped up the damage, and Kent going in there with the Reaper to clean up the kill. Streets phase was a lot cleaner for this team. Definitely much more of a struggle for AHQ. Speaking of struggle, when you talk about AHQ here, really couldn't find the composition that they were looking for throughout that entire Kings Row stage. Started out with the Tracer Soldier gameplay to some good effect. I'd like to say that Dizzy definitely ran around and used the Soldier's mobility to sort of outposition Nuns there. Something Rapid unfortunately didn't have the opportunity to do, or rather had the opportunity to do but could not do. It's got to be a frustrating game for Rapid going up against Nuns' Doomfist so far. Of course, AHQ later on in the stage of the game decided, look, we're going to put Dizzy onto the McCree now. I believe he was the first person to change composition right into the Zion, so you had a little bit of this middle section of the map where you're halfway with your original composition and halfway with the composition that you want to run at the end of the game. So you could tell they were looking for the Rhine Zaya right at the third stage, but they started things off with the Tracer Soldier, which I am a fan of. Changing He onto the Zaya, then the next play to change, I believe, was Dizzy onto the McCree, and finally Eric onto the Reinhardt right at the end of the game. So it took a little bit of time for AHQ to find the composition that they really want to play here. Whereas it does seem that Machi were a little bit more confident, a little bit more sure of exactly how they want to approach this. We have his, I was going to say he does actually play a Widowmaker, so I'm interested to see if he was actually going to go for that. Was just spotting out. It's going to be the Tracer Soldier composition, and again coming out from AHQ against the Machi defense, who are going to change nothing. Nothing will change for this composition whatsoever. We did see a little bit of Kant on the Tracer in the final moments of their attack, but straight back on to the Reaper. I do believe, they are expecting some sort of dive here. Kiyomi going down early to Dizzy is a problem. And this is going to end up pushing Machi back into a little bit of a corner. You already see Kant going down. You already see everyone from Machi just backing out Crown with the shield up. Dizzy now superior positioning on this top side. Cannot be challenged, and this is a big problem for Machi. You have no one with the mobility to actually challenge Dizzy. Last time you had Nuns playing the Doomfist, you can jump up, you can make an uppercut play onto Dizzy, try and get him off the high ground. This time around, who's going to do that on your team? No one can do that except maybe Kent teleporting his way up, but definitely not the best option, and AHQ just breeze on through this first cap. That was completely uncontested, and honestly for Machi Esports, maybe you want to bring back the Doomfist from Nuns. I think that was working a lot better than expected, certainly against Rapid. You might want to find that success again, but the frontline pressure is what Machi's all about. They have got their tanks back up right in the faces of AHQ. Relieving a bit of pressure from Nuns, who's still in the front of the stool with Dizzy. You have to be considerate and respect Dizzy's tactical visor here. Has so far in this series only found, I think, one good tactical visor. The other ones have been blocked up, but he isn't playing against a Matrix anymore, so the threat of the good tank is always, especially in that sort of positioning, and Restia going down. This is the supports on the back line that Dizzy constantly has access to. Now your front line is falling apart as well. Dizzy has having a field day. No ultimates will be used here from HQ whatsoever. I believe Rapid actually put out a pulse bomb, didn't really get a kill with that. But otherwise, we're about to sit on to 5. Dizzy now getting forward positioning. Still unchallenged. This is, again, a big problem for Machi. No one has the ability to actually challenge Dizzy here, no matter what positioning Dizzy decides to take here, as long as it's high ground. No one from Machi has the response, and the response now will be Nuns going on to the Genji. He says, this is how I'm going to deal with Dizzy. He's not going to be punching Rapid in the face anymore, but he might just be cutting Dizzy off from the high ground. Carry snipes can't out, so that's going to be an unfortunate beginning to this defense now for Machi once again, but they will try nonetheless. You cannot be giving up the Streets phase, the second cap, the same way you gave up the first cap, and now the Tech Visor we've been waiting for. Nuns, the player we thought, the player that is designated to deal with Dizzy, unfortunately going to get taken down, but this has been very easy for AHQ. I think easy is a very accurate way to describe this attack so far. No pressure on the first cap, minimal pressure on the second cap. And only now for Machi, Nuns is going to go on the Soldier as well. So, you know, if you can't dive him, you can't outshoot him as McCree, it's time to do what he does, join the club. We're all soldiers now, he says, but AHQ coming in with, we've all got ults now. Except Dizzy, who used the Tech Visor to get this cap, and that's a very cheap take. You'll take it. 1 Tech Visor gives you a 2nd point cap. Pretty easy stuff from AHQ so far. We've got a little bit of resistance from the Restia side. He gets the kill. It also has the sound barrier. This will slow up AHQ somewhat. Kind of expect AHQ to get a little bit more aggressive here, considering how far ahead they are. Wonder if they realize they're actually this far ahead. This is, of course, Nuns swapped about twice now, so you expect Nuns to be one of the players that's really far behind an ultimate. So you should realize you have a lot of pressure in terms of the ultimate economy here that you should be placing. 4 minutes and 8 seconds is a decent amount of time to attack with. Carry is going down. This is something. What is going on, AHU? You are so far ahead right now. 5 ultimates lined up. Dizzy's about to get a 1 as well. None started out on nothing. This guy just changed the Soldier, and he's about to get the Tech Visor. It's a lot of time squandered for the AHQ side. A lot of time you expected them to have already taken advantage, for them to have already pushed on through to the final moments of this Foundry. But continuously losing members early has costed AHQ a lot of time now. 3 minutes 36 remaining. The last time we talked about the time, we had an extra 30 seconds. Where has that 30 seconds gone for this team as now 5 ultimates come online for Machi? Machi, who were 5 ultimates behind, and now matching AHQ. And finally, Eric pushes the go button first, looking for a couple targets on the backside. Picking up Nunski would be really big, but the sound barrier does come out to save his team, as Dizzy now looking for targets himself to take Visor. Finds just about nobody. Nuns on the backside, though. He might just get a little bit of a backstab play onto Dizzy. The sound barrier now defensively for Crappy on AHQ side. Everybody used their ultimates here. But this is not the fight that HQ wanted, because the card does not move whatsoever. We're now going to get 3 minutes. 1 minute has gone off the clock from when originally AHQ pushed in with a huge advantage. Everyone's sitting on 0. We've got a full reset, and this full reset absolutely favors Machi Esports. In a way bigger than AHQ understand right now. Here comes the pulse bomb. Was that a stick? I don't believe it was. We are finding a lot of kills regardless from AHQ, and it's interesting they're finding kills without ultimates. I mean, they had ultimates before and they couldn't get kills. They could have probably have done this a lot quicker, HQ. I know Machi pushed through on overtime. I know they're sitting on 0 seconds, but you don't also want to be pushing on overtime. You want to have a really good lead going to this time bank here. Both soldiers about to hit that Tank Visor again. Nuns gets his first. On a frontline pressure that Eric is putting onto this team, and there is the Tech Visor coming out now. You expect Iki to be right into his face. Crappy gets a kill on his counterpart Restia. Nuns getting forced back. Very well played by the tanks of AHQ so far, and now it's Dizzy's turn to show what he's made of. Really good position by him. Such good high ground control, and this is the same problem Machi has had before. Now you cannot challenge Dizzy again as the sound barrier comes up for AHQ. Machi Esports have barely any options remaining. This should be the cap on through. No ultimates. Kiyomi sitting on 90. And finally, AHQ push it over the line, but it was a struggle. It was a lot harder than it should have been for this team. It should have been a very forceful rollout. 5 ultimates to 0 or maybe even 1 ultimate at around the 3-minute 15 mark. Spending about 2 minutes there, pushing on through. Both teams fully used their ultimates, and only after that was over did AHQ push on through, and they pushed on through without needing to use any ultimates, which is the most bizarre thing about all of this. The team definitely looks like, if they're not too pleased about that performance, I wouldn't blame them. They need to really sharpen that up a little bit. But for Machi, actually, very strong showing on Lijiang Tower. And they are starting to fall by the wayside just a little bit now into King's Row. They're not having that same dominant display. A couple of issues there, at least compositionally. You had a decent attack where they were very confident about what they wanted to run. They said, yes, we're going to run the Doomfist. Nuns is going to pick that one up. He is going to kill Rapid a lot of times. It was like the Rapid dying to Doomfist compilation. Greatest hits, quite literally. And then you had the converse on defense where you started Nuns out on the McCree. You gave up the positioning to Dizzy onto the high ground. Big mistake. No one could challenge Dizzy. Then on the streets phase, you tried to run the Genji. You tried to put a little bit more pressure on Dizzy. Theoretically, that's correct. But again, didn't quite get there in the end. Then Nuns played Soldier at the end. Just looked like Machi were always one step behind, and they're going to need to be one step ahead if they want to win this. Very quick now. Push on through for Dizzy. Good flashbang combo with the buy grenade. Does secure D-Crown and already down one member this quickly. I mean, Mech's almost down for no talk as well. This is now a different approach to what I think Machi were expecting. Machi expected AHQ to take the top side around the right, the clock tower, try to take the high ground. But the low ground game is now what AHQ wants. Good flashbang, doesn't convert the kill. He's got to pay for that with his life. Eric picks up 3 though, or 2.5 technically. You do have a little bit of the opposite problem now because Nuns is now the one uncontested on the high ground. And you see exactly what kind of impact that has as a soldier against a slow lineup, against a tank lineup, such as Reinhardt Zaya, that cannot challenge the high ground the way you need to if you're AHQ, or the way that Machi needed to in the previous round. So problems for both teams in their approach. I think AHQ had a great start. They needed to convert a little bit more. They needed to apply a bit more pressure onto Nuns. That's a good start. A sleep dart, but they need to do something with it. A sleep dart is not a kill unless someone gets in there. Well-placed bubble. Ken actually kills himself. Oh, man. The guy's got to get a kill somehow with a pulse bomb. He can't kill anybody. He kills himself. So there it is. Take advice from Dizzy. Whew. Forgot to get onto the point. Call that one a Z9. Difficult hold though. Very difficult for Machi to play on this one. I think AHQ are going to be quite happy with that overall. A few mistakes. I wouldn't even say mistakes here, but not the cleanest King's Row game out of AHQ, but smiles nonetheless because they do, of course, take it out, evening up the scoreline 1-1. I believe this is the double kill, which I mistakenly thought was actually Kant's, but it was his. Could actually be wrong here. Yep, there it is. That really started things off. In fact, what really started things off was Eric with the Earth Shatter. Rapid just walking in for an extremely efficient pulse bomb kills. I think Nitor is looking for a little bit more out of his team as well, but it is going to be now 1-1 the scoreline. If I'm not mistaken, I might have to double check that actually. Should be the case because Machi pushed on through into overtime, and AHQ only needed to take the 1/3, so still some things to really shore up, and I think this is definitely a lot closer series than AHQ would be comfortable playing. I think for AHQ, a team that didn't lose to Machi whatsoever in Season 1, definitely not looking for their first loss today, not looking to go down to the number 5 team from Season 1 as the number 3 team. You want to be able to keep your positioning, especially in a competition now with new teams in there. You've already taken down Liberate Supreme if you're AHQ, but you haven't yet taken down Ardigant. You're looking for your revenge of both Flashals and Blank. Going down to Machi as a start would not be good. We're going to go into a couple of replays now. This is going to be one of the ones, I believe, right at the end, where they only have to cap 1/3 on through. And you can actually see this. The no talk went down. D-Crown was actually the first member. Very quick push on through. Dizzy landed the flashbang. The buy grenade did follow. So both the tanks taken down there. Nuns on the high ground was a big issue. This is kind of what I'm talking about here. D-Crown gets a respawn as well. Nuns really opens up the point. Eric gets a nice 2.5 kill. But still, no one can really touch Nuns. And this was part of the problem for AHQ moving in. I think, you know, Nitor as the coach of AHQ definitely does see that as well. Definitely needs to address your approach to that King's Row defense. And in fact, it just was not the cleanest King's Row you've seen out of AHQ. which is interesting because in even saying that, it does sound like Machi didn't have too much of a presence on Kings Row, and I think they had a decent attack. I think they were right to stick with their guns. They played their Doomfist composition well. But otherwise, I think Machi definitely far stronger on the control game mode. Tracer Genji is probably the go-to for Machi, I would say, in similar fashion to the Tracer Soldier being a go-to for the AHQ side. I think Tracer Genji is definitely what Machi might want to stick on with, but the Doomfist was pretty good. The Doomfist had its impact. Nuns was getting kills with it. He was able to zone out with Meteor Strike. Didn't really see that many kills with the Meteor Strike or anything like that, but it is useful. I did like the theory and the planning behind the composition of what they wanted to achieve. But I think for AHQ, on the other side, the speed was definitely an issue, and it's going to have to be addressed when we get into the next map, which is going to be Assault. 1-1 is the scoreline so far. And as the home team, Machi will get to pick map number 3, Assault, and that's all going to happen right after this break. So see you later. Thank you for waiting, and welcome back to OPC Season 2, Week 1, Day number 2. We've just had the 2 maps now from AHQ versus Machi Esports. 1-1 is the scoreline. Machi took out Lijiang Tower with AHQ, taking out the Kings Row map, and pretty hotly contested, I would say, on both stages. I mean, AHQ only barely lost Lijiang after a couple of unfortunate mistakes by them, but incredibly well played Tracer gameplay on Kant's side. And then onto Kings Row as well, we had some, I would say, unfortunate times for Machi Esports. Didn't really have a way to deal with Dizzy on AHQ's attack. Machi had a very slow attack themselves, had to push it all the way into overtime to actually get it across the line. And for AHQ, easy pickings. They only had to cap the first one tick, the first 1/3 of cap A to finish out that game. But got to still be sweating if you're on the AHQ side. I know that wasn't the cleanest win through for them. In fact, they were still at risk. I mean, on their own attack, they had moments where it really did look like they potentially weren't going to get it past the line. They had a lot of time left, so you're definitely rooting for them to try and get past the line. Unlike a team where Machi just had to wait until the final moments, the overtime really did affect them. And for AHQ, it was about trying to find the right kind of defense. You had he changing his hero. You had Eric in, then going back onto the Reinhardt as well. And you had Dizzy trying to figure out what he wanted to play. You had a little bit of a similar situation with Machi on their defense, where Nuns wasn't really too sure how he wanted to deal with Dizzy's Soldier. And Nuns found a little bit of success himself with the Soldier on the first camp, but a little bit too late. You kind of consider what would have happened if it wasn't an overtime push of the original attack by Machi Esports. But the third map has come through now. It will be Horizon Lunar Colony, picked of course by Machi Esports, as they are the home side. If you're not too sure how the home and away system works, the home team, which is Machi this time around, does get to pick maps 1, 3, and 5. That is the Control, Assault, and Hybrid. And AHQ will be picking maps 2 and 4, which is the Hybrid and the Escort. We did see some interesting things come out of Machi Esports yesterday when they did go into Horizon Lunar Colony. And they did want to run, that Doomfist Reinhardt Zaya composition. We did see them debut that against Mega Thunder, who played a very similar composition. They played basically the same thing, and from that experience, Machi piloted it pretty well. They had a pretty good run through with their Doomfist composition. And Mega Thunder, you saw glimpses of brilliancy. You saw moments where Mega really pulled it together, but far more moments where Machi was, unfortunately for Mega, a little bit more dominant, a little bit cleaner, a little bit more synergized, leaving Mega Thunder with a little bit more to sort of impress and improve with coming into today. And of course, they'll be coming up later in the evening as well. Mega Thunder will be taking a Hong Kong attitude after this match, but we're going to go to at least a map 4 in the series. And in fact, with the way these two teams are playing, wouldn't be surprised if we made it to a map 5 as well, as it is so far still 1-1 in the series between AHQ and Machi Esports. Machi, of course, being on the home side, they are going to get that map pick advantage. So even if we do make it to map 5, you got to kind of favor Machi just a little bit in terms of what they can pick out of here. But this has to be a good map for Machi. If they cannot take it here, I think they're going to struggle on the Escort. I do think they're going to struggle on the next Hybrid as well. Really, where Machi can bring it home is they've already won the Control. Horizon Lunar Colony did look like a good map for Machi yesterday. It needs to be a win for them now. And one of the Escorts, either between the next Escort or the Hybrid, has to be a win for Machi for them to take it out. I know it sounds like a very obvious thing. That's factually exactly what it needs to be, but I think I might have to favor AHQ if we do get the hybrid, so I think Escort is probably where Machi got to take this one home, assuming they win this map. If they do not win this map, it's a very good opportunity. Machi lose out 1-3, and AHQ will take it home after only one map loss, which they will need to address after this match. Definitely some sour looks from Coach Nito onto the side as well. I have also heard that peanut butter in space probably lasts for a long time. I know space is really cold, so probably just freezes out there. Frozen peanut butter probably doesn't taste too good though, but I've never tried, so what do I know? It's going to be the same composition as we saw out of Machi yesterday as well. So it's going to be that Doomfist kind of Doomfist, Reinhardt, Zaya with the Canton Reaper as well. You do miss Canton the Tracer just a little bit, so they are going to try and go through this left side. Kiyomi going down quite early, and we've talked already about this Dizzy high ground advantage that he's very good at abusing, that he's very good at taking advantage of in Machi Esports. They just have to run past this. They have to try and attempt to go through from either the bottom left from their perspective or that top right section. And I know, in fact, not even top right, but the bottom right as well is open. And I know they had some success with that yesterday against Mega Thunder, so you do want to try what has worked for you so far. And they're going to go for the top right option this time around. Shields up against Dizzy. This is high ground that is still quite difficult for Machi to really contest. Eric goes down to none, so that is a start they can work with. Sleep Dart hits somebody, not quite too sure there. Kiyomi so low, does get a headshot clean. They're taken down by Dizzy. Actually going to take away a third of this cap though, so I think ASU can't be too complacent here. Nuns with a beautiful punch to Dizzy's face, knocks him out of the park. Now Nuns looking for a little bit more. Now 2/3 already gone for the cap. Punches good old Hiki off the point as well, and this has been, so far, just Nuns going to clean up crappy with the Meteor Strike as well. We didn't really see much of a Meteor Strike kill last time, but Nuns with the Doomfist, I mean, you gotta look out for this guy. Nuns now going on to the Soldier, so we do see Machi changing things up a little bit. We saw this from them yesterday against against Mega Thunder. But they definitely like to play a little bit of a different style approaching the second camp. Rapid now taking down Kiyomi, who's had a really tough time so far on this map. About his third death in 2 fights, I think. Dizzy's about to hit that attack visor as well. It's going to be monumental for this defensive effort. Dizzy actually controlling this defensive high ground is really important. This prevents Nuns from taking it himself. I believe whichever soldier can really control that ground is going to have a very big advantage. And both D.Va players know this as well. Both D.Va players are doing a lot to try and control it. Both Winston players, for that regard, will definitely be doing a lot here. So Cat nearing that death loss, and the only member of Machi, at least from the front line, the defensive line, not to change up the hero. Pretty hotly contested on the battlement so far, but it does look like Machi get that initial control. This is a very deadly teleport that could have cost him a lot. Looking for the Death Blossom play. Dizzy taking down Nuns as well. So if you want to do something, Kent, you better do it quickly because your members are going down. Kiyomi follows next. Again, one of the players that has been taken out a little bit more often so far. Kent has very low health. Took a long time, was really telegraphed him teleporting up to the upper beams of the structure on the second cap. 5 minutes now remaining for the clock for Machi Esports. Running a little bit low on ultimates as well. Cancel looking for that Death Blossom play. He found one yesterday against Mega Thunder that really secured the game for Machi. Dropping down from those orange beams, I think about 3 kills, gets 1 kill at least with the shotguns, and that should be the opening play now. Kent looking for the same flanking ankle, does drop down, does he use a Death Blossom? That's going to be really interesting. Dodges a Sleep Dart, good start. Wax carries in the face with the butt of his gun, looking for his next target, and that next target will be here. He should be able to dodge this fairly easily with Wraith Form. Big Crown, unfortunately, no Wraith Form for the Winston, so can't do much about that. He's going to be the star of that defense, and once again, just unable to really break through here from Machi. Kanta's still sitting on the Death Blossom that he's had the entire game. I don't believe he's used a single Death Blossom yet. So looking for an opportunity there. Nuns with an opportunity as well. I think Dizzy's already had a Tech Visor play on the second cap defense, which is pretty good so far. And it's dangerous for Cap because you don't want to be playing Death Blossom into Hiki, so you do need your team to get rid of this D.Va mech. You know, for Nuns as well, you need to have a tactical visor that's not going to get blocked out by a Matrix. That top right play from Machi on their perspective is definitely the way to go. Sleeping Cant is not going to help it. At least the Wraithform should help a little bit here, but it's actually a pretty bad spot. Here comes the Nano Visor, going to get immediately blocked up by both tanks, whacked in the face by Erikin as well. In fact, Hyomi goes now super early, not too unexpected, at least on this map. Rapid falling over to No Talk. And AHQ's defense, steadfast, holding on, still cannot find this Death Blossom. It's about this time into the game where we've got 3 minutes remaining. We started with 6 with the attack onto Cap B. Half of that time has got 3 minutes have been spent and nothing to show for it. Not even 1/3 of the cap has gone through for Machi Esports. You do have to be concerned because if you haven't done it in the first 3 minutes, what is your plan for taking it in the last 3 minutes? You needed a little bit of progress by now. You haven't found it. Rapid going down early, so this is something that Kent had in one of the previous pushes. He did get Rapid down early before, but it wasn't a big take from Machi. Now, the opportunity presents itself again. You've got to do more with this than you had before. Nun's not going to get a lot done here. Dizzy takes down Ikram with the Helix Rocket. Can't push back one more time. If you're thinking about changing to Tracer, now would be a good time to think about that a little bit harder. And Machi now on the cusp of sitting at the 2-minute mark. It's kind of difficult because you get flashbacks to King's Row. You get flashbacks to King's Row where Machi only managed to push it out through into the overtime. We might actually end up seeing that again. You see them pushing out into the overtime again. That is going to be very difficult. You're going to face the same situation as King's Row, where AHQ just need to get 1/3 through onto the first cap, assuming they cap it on out through as well. But the way, judging by the way they're defending right now, and judging by the way that AHQ play in general, I would say they definitely can push on through. So for Machi, the goal here is you cannot be finishing the map in overtime. Giving them a lot of credit here because the alternative to that would be, you might be glad just finishing the map at all, but I believe in this Machi team. I believe they can finish this map. A lot of ultimates this time being used. Did actually change to that trace. I didn't really quite mention that, but there it is. So for No Talk's not having a lot of fun, None should be looking to pick up a kill here, or doesn't quite complete the kill onto Eric, who's looking for a little bit of vengeance. Kyomi going down in the middle of the fight there, with 1 minute remaining now. So the nightmare scenario for Machi really coming to life now. This is really what they wanted to prevent, and I don't realistically see a way for them to really take this point without going into the overtime. The best they can do is cap on through in the overtime. But even that's a bit of an ask now because you always have to keep in the back of your mind, what if Machi do not actually cap? There is the possibility they just don't cap here, and that would be devastating for this attack on through now. We do dodge Rapid's pulse bomb, so that is, again, an opening. It's not as good of an opening as actually killing Rapid, which is something that Machi have done now twice. It's a pretty average start so far. It's a little bit less average. Clean up on the supports, you might find something. Got to keep Nuns alive. You don't. No chances because the bio grenade, well placed by Carriers now with only two members down. 15 seconds remaining. Machi do back off, and I don't think they have enough time to get back in here. They're going to have to just dive for this cap. They're going to have to dive to immediately trigger the overtime as their two members respawn and join them now in the final 2 seconds. This is so difficult to watch because we have no progress, and we've had much better starts from Machi. Nun's now onto the Genji, or at least he was onto the Genji for some time now, almost at ultimate, almost onto the Dragon Blade. This is difficult. This is so difficult, but they are slowly getting a little bit of progress here, but they haven't dealt with Dizzy. This has been one of the difficulties of the push so far. Into the Transcendence. Nuns is not going to be the one to kill Dizzy today, not yet anyway. Transcendence on the other side goes out as well. Carrier's going down, does give more opportunity on that Machi side. Rapid misses another pulse bomb, a little bit unfortunate. One more ult remaining for Machi Esports into the overtime here. This is the final opportunity they get. 2 plays down, Dizzy and Rapid. Now the floodgates are open. One more play goes down. Kyrgios has actually got into Doomfist. This might actually be a push on through. There's not a lot of plays. In fact, no plays remaining for AHQ. Now you just spawn cap the doors, and that's going to be a cap on through. Machi in the final moments. Wow, if they're going to cut it close, I mean, that's about as close as you can ever cut it. Unbelievable. AHQ got to be kicking themselves after that one. What was after a very well-coordinated defense, they just completely stonewalled every attempt Machi had to actually get on through that cap. AHQ let it go right in the final minutes. You're just right in the final moments, rather, in the final seconds. It's like when you're in a bit of a drag race and you think you're so far ahead, you let your foot off the gas pedal just a little bit. The other vehicle takes you over. It's not all over just yet. There is lap 2 still. And Machi got to defend this time around at AHQ. I will say AHQ had a better attack on King's Road. Now they've got to show that they can do that on Horizon Lunar Colony as well. We saw AHQ on Hanamura yesterday against Liberal and Supreme. That was an extremely well-played, well-coordinated, well-executed defense and offense from AHQ. That was one of the assault maps. We know they're a good assault team. We know they're a good defense team in particular. We haven't seen them on Horizon Lunar Colony just yet, and it is a slightly different map. This is not going to be a repeat of Hanamura, or is it? And that's a big question for this team, a big question for what Machi are going to do about this. The other interesting thing about this map and the performance so far is you can make that connection, that sort of comparison between the Mega Thunder game versus Machi Esports, and also now Machi Esports versus HQ, because both of these maps have now been played between both teams, or rather all 3 teams. Machi Esports did come out on top of the Mega Thunder game. It was a very closely fought game. This has so far felt a little bit less close. HQ take this one out with relative ease. And don't forget, AHU had an absolutely fantastic attack on through King's Road, largely off the back of an uncontested Dizzy. If that happens again, more questions yet will still be raised about Mega Thunder, and they will be playing after this. And Dizzy on the Widowmaker, we know he can snipe. Was pressured a lot by Pepper from LS yesterday on Hanamura. Once he hit the free reign, he was hitting his shots. He's currently missing a couple of them. Does tickle Nuns on the other side just a little bit, but he is being given a lot of space. And usually the Tracer player would be challenging Dizzy, but Kant is, of course, onto the Reaper, so no one will really be challenging Dizzy whatsoever. Nuns to take a few pot shots, and eventually he gets in. He gets a kill. And it is Kiyomi one more time. Restia as well, and this is kind of what it looked like yesterday on Hanamura. Pepper let his foot off the gas pedal on top of Dizzy, and then suddenly Dizzy had all the space in the world to work with. No, he didn't hit every single shot. He also didn't need to hit every single shot. He just needed to hit a couple shots, the ones that counted. Like the one to Kiyomi and like the one to Restia. You take down the back line, now you're about to hit the infra site. You might snipe a little bit more. Actually, a lot of Widowmakers may choose to get off here. I have also been told this is not a bad Widow point to sort of go in on, so Dizzy will prove whether that's the case or not. Timing is now. This is about when you actually want to push on through. You can still have ultimates. Now Ken has decided to do something about Dizzy, but the infra side already went on through, and here comes the Nano onto Rapid as well. So far, pretty clean. Gotta keep Rapid alive. If Rapid dies here, this could be very problematic. A lot of your DPS goes out the window if Rapid goes down. The good news for HQ, the very bad news for Machi Esports is 2/3 is gone. In fact, we're nearly at the cap. Where is Machi Esports? You got to get out here now. This is a huge snowball play. Sound Barrier cam down as well. Nuns is trying to get back into his base. That's not the direction you can afford to go in right now. Restia, one of the few members still alive to contest this now. The Death Blossom did get blocked out somewhat, so that is a little bit of space the Machi have created for themselves, but not enough space to actually defend this. Graviton now coming on through, and Machi do not find any ultimate, so they do not find a defense. And with relative ease, 546 on the timeback versus 0. That is not a situation you want to be in as Machi Esports. That was a very convincing attack from AHQ. In fact, I would say an even more convincing attack than what they did on King's Road. This is looking better and better for AHQ as we progress through the match. Unfortunately, conversely, that means worse and worse for Machi Esports. They had a difficult situation last time on King's Road, and a very similar time bank scenario. Now in Lunar Colony, even more difficult. They only managed to cap out themselves in those last few final moments. AHU kind of closed a blind eye there and just let it happen almost. It was a little bit disappointing on their side of defense, but 5 minutes, what was it, 5 minutes 40 something, 5 minutes 30 something for AHQ is ridiculous. It's going to be one of the quickest takes of Horizon, I think, in the OPC so far. In fact, it must be. We've only seen Horizon twice, so I guess the sample size isn't quite big enough to really make that claim. if you're Machi right now, you got to pull something else that you haven't before, because 546 to cap 1/3 is very doable. Incredibly doable. In fact, nigh impossible for AHQ to fail here. AHQ would have to consistently smack their heads in on the walls of Machi. Machi would have to consistently out-rotate ultimates, out-charge their ultimates against their opponents, out-position and out-kill. Everything from Machi needs to be better, and so far it hasn't been. And that's a bit of an issue. It's an even bigger issue when a biotic grenade from carries lands like that, and this could be all over. I mean, 2 members remaining. Kiyomi can't do anything about this. It's just Restia and no talk, so Restia's already gone down, and the victory dances should come out. Yep, AHQ cleanly take out Lunar Colony. And any team that's now watching AHQ, you got to be concerned because you're not taking them to Hanamura. You don't want to go there. You've seen what they did to Liberate Supreme, dismantled. Now you don't want to take them to Lunar Colony either. Japan's out of the question. The Moon's out of the question. Maybe Volskaya, you can take AHQ. Maybe Temple of Anubis, but we know they're good at those maps too. What assault map is AHQ not good at this point? It's a big question because that was unfortunately an incredibly one-sided affair. So far, at least 2 matches in a row, 2 maps in a row. We've seen Hanamura from AHQ. We've now seen Lunar Colony from AHQ. Both dominant displays against a team that had very good runs against them on the control specifically. So final moments now for Machi. You know, kind of mentioned before that if Machi want to take this match out tonight in the best of 5, Assault has to be a win for them. If you're not going to win Assault, I don't see Machi winning the hybrid either. Now 2-1, Escort wasn't going to be easy for Machi either, but Escort is a possibility now for Machi. Even taking that though, I mean, shy of something incredible happening to the Machi side, they've really got to be able to pull this one through. Let's take a look at a couple of replays before we head on into the next map. So early moments of the pushes now for Machi Esports. You can actually see Campta drop down there looking for a Death Blossom in the face of Hihi, who launches that self-destruct. If you're Kant, you would have liked to have killed Hihi before he demeched, and this is one of the few moments where, unfortunately for Kant, he just couldn't find a Death Blossom. In fact, my memory is a little bit hazy, but I'm not too sure that he even used it in the first place, and that was one of the few crucial defenses by AHQ off the back of Hihi's Diva. A couple of them were off the back of Dizzy's Soldier as well. We're going to take a look at another replay now. And this next replay is a little bit later on, I believe, in that attack, so 30 seconds remaining. This should be the celebratory push coming in on through a few moments, but they do lose a few members. I remember roughly about the 15-second mark they decide to retreat, so there it is, 15, 16 seconds. And this attack could have not been closer, but it is interesting to, well, it would have been interesting to see exactly where the mistakes from AHQ were, because AHQ nearly had that, and in some cases, maybe even should have had that. But the bigger question is, if Machi were able to push it on through in those final moments, right at the 0-second mark, you know, what went wrong during the 6 minutes of time? A lot of what went wrong was potentially keeping the Reaper and the Death Blossom for a little bit too long, a little bit longer than desired. At least 3 minutes, maybe even 4 minutes were spent doing that, but no progress was probably a big one. 6 minutes worth of no progress. So then at the 0-second mark, you actually take the whole thing out. Now, I'm going to go into another replay. This one is push on through from AHQ with a lot of time remaining. Just so much time remaining. Dizzy, Infrasight was out already. He didn't even really get any kills. Dizzy doesn't look like he did a lot of damage here, but that doesn't really matter. Because the rest of AHQ were cleaning up house and Rapid in the front lines. I don't think he even needed to use Death Blossom. I do remember he did use it, but it was just, even at this point, just unnecessary. And what's crazy is AHQ's ability to go for the snowball pushes. We've seen this in Season 1. We talked about this already yesterday, but AHQ know how to snowball assault fights, and they know how to push on through aggressively and also execute with coordination on those assault maps and assault pushes. Something that you really wanted to see out of Machi just a little bit, and I know they had a few opportunities, but a few opportunities squandered. I do believe on Machi's initial push onto the Camp B, they lost someone quite early. That definitely slowed them down a bit. But we didn't see the same mistakes coming up from AHQ like we saw in Kings. We're going to go into another replay now as well. This is a slightly earlier one, I believe, into the time bank, and Biota Grenade really cleaned up a lot of members there. So Biota Grenade by carries on all of his members. Dizzy running on through. In fact, this is on HQ's initial attack run through. Apologize for that. So just easy stuff. So no, that was actually the time bank. I'm getting a little bit mixed up there. That was in fact the time bank. So the previous replay was HQ's initial attack on through. That one's a time bank with a beautifully placed Biota Grenade from the old carriers to be able to secure that one. But yeah, you did expect a little bit more token defense because everything about Horizon Lunar Colony was essentially the same story as King's Row, but just far more favored in the case of AHQ. Just a lot better, a lot cleaner from AHQ. Everything was better from their side. You didn't see the moments where they're sitting on 5 or 6 ultimates against one ultimate and failing to push. Much different. A 180 from AHQ. They're sitting on barely any ultimates. They're just charging up a couple ultimates, but they're able to just push on through themselves. They know the timing of assault so well compared to something like King's Row. Now we're about to head into map number 4. AHQ's pick, it will be Dorado. So things don't get easier because, of course, as the away team, AHQ get map pick number 4. Dorado, again, is the choice of that map. Hard to say how much he's going to do on this one. A lot of teams didn't really make it to map 4. At OPC Season 1, Escort was a little bit more of a rare occurrence. In a best of 5, we did see a decent amount of 3-0s to my memory, so looking forward to what Machi have got to show now on this map 4. And in fact, looking forward to what AHQ might pull out additionally as well. How deep does Dizzy's hero pool run? Because we know Dizzy plays a soldier. We've seen that. We know he plays a Widow. We know he plays a Reaper. We have seen some of that McCree as well, too, sort of on and off success. Has he got any other characters? He's very much a hit scan specialist, but is that the case for Rapid? One of the bigger questions I have for the AHQ team is, who picks up the Genji for this team? Who picks up the Pharah? Do we have a Pharah play? Do we have a Genji play? Does Rapid play these other heroes? Or are you a team of only hit scan plays? There's not necessarily a problem with that. In fact, are you a team that can run Doomfist? That is another question because we didn't see the Doomfist out of this AHQ side. We have, though, seen it on the Machi side. And on the Machi side, Nuns had a pretty good run with Doomfist. It was very good kills on King's Row, specifically against Rapid. And when you look at Lunar Colony as well, Horizon Lunar Colony, some very aggressive kills. I believe it was Nuns who opened up that initial first cap A for Machi with that Doomfist play. So I like to see how far I can take it because so far we haven't seen too much Doomfist, and of the Doomfist that we have seen, Nuns has got to be the most impressive. Again, haven't seen too many Doomfist, but he has shown the best one. For whatever that's worth anyway. I believe we had a bit of a glimpse of a Mercy. This could be a pharmacy here. I do know that there is a Pharah within the Machi side. So we're not going to see that. We're going to see Crappy onto the Mercy. Damage boosting Dizzy, so putting a few extra eggs in this basket here, and that basket is called the Dizzy Soldier. I am a fan of the Tracer composition, the Tracer Soldier comp on the AHQ side, and they want to really bring that one home. Losing the Lucio here does mean they have to play around the res a little bit more. They have to be a little bit more reactive rather than proactive with the sound barriers. Also, kind of doesn't give them much of a chance to play aggressively either. If you lose that speed burst, you lose the aggressive sound barrier. So we'll have to see much more defensive AHQ, and losing the first 2 members. Well, Crappy's already down, so this is starting to fall apart very quickly. Dizzy looked like he just wanted suicide of the area. You kind of question that a little bit because Dizzy had the opportunity to run away. So maybe Dizzy's changing hero here. I don't believe he should have suicided onto the card. I do believe he had the opportunity to run back towards the point, but maybe he didn't believe that was a possibility. So it's a full reset now for AHQ, and for Machi, this is so far being a very dominant start. It's not one of those starts where, yep, you killed a player or two. You actually killed a lot of players. Pulse Bomb goes wide. One of the few Pulse Bombs per camp that does go wide, so I guess everyone is immortal after all. Baron's got to be a little bit careful as well. So Eric, instead of getting picked out early, he is picking someone else out early. Rapid with 2 as well. So Rapid putting himself onto the kill feed. He's gonna get his pulse bomb down now, as well as AHQ. Finally racking up those ultimates once it's Dorado phase. One good thing for Machi is the card is relatively pushed on through now, so you can now explore a few other pathing options for your attack as you build up towards that Dragon Blade. I think once you have both defensive ultimates and a Dragon Blade, that's got to be the go time for Machi. You can then have good defensive options as well as offensive options. But for a team like AHQ, with Crappy now going back onto the Lucio, you're very slow in the sound barrier, so it could be a very devastating Dragon Blade. We might see that right now. Not a lot of defense on the AHQ side. Gets two with one swing. Call that one efficiency. Gets a third one with Eric on Eric as well. A lot of ultimates for AHQ, but not a lot of effect. Rapid going down to a pulse bomb from Camp. I mean, yep. He's got to kill somebody with one of these. If it's not himself, he's got to kill someone. He's got to kill the Tracer onto the other side. Very cleanly operated, Machi. This is so far being very good. And we did say, you know, Escort was going to have to be one of their better maps, one of their better game modes. So far, that is the case. So far, that does seem like the truth. But for AHQ, we're now going back into older AHQ. We're now looking at Kings Row AHQ, where they have the 5 ultimates versus very little ultimates, and they're not executing with that. He already blew the self-destruct. Crappy now about to get his first sound barrier of the game after switching from Mercy to Lucio. And we're already on the streets phase. No excuses now for AHQ to not have a successful defense. You were so far ahead, so much to work with. Rapid misses the pulse box. So far, no kills from Dizzy either. And the cart's moving. This is a big problem. The cart's moving while all of this is happening. You cannot be AHQ using all these ultimates, but you haven't stopped at the kind of finding. The cart does stop before the statue, before the courthouse. Yes, it's a courthouse, not a church. Eric's the only one now left with that Primal Rage, so very expensive hold from AHQ. First sound barrier did get used there as well. Rapid missed the pulse bomb crucially. Dizzy didn't really pick up any kills with the Attack Visor, and it had to be a group effort of everyone using ultimates together to get it across the line. I believe it was 5 ultimates from AHQ required to make that hold. Economically for Machi, you'll probably take the. Here comes Dragon Blade number 2, looking for Dizzy first of all, finds him. Down to supports. Nice deflect of the bio grenade, but it's not going to pick up anything else because Eric on the backline does get the Tesla cannon straight into the spine of Nuns, and now it's going to be D-Crown looking for options on the front line. Tank versus tank gameplay. But it is he somewhat surrounded here. Kant does continue to move as Crappy gets taken down by Kiyomi, and AHQ now on the back foot once more. Ultimate or no ultimate. AHQ won with 5 ultimates before. Now Dizzy has a nano boost, and Dizzy is the kind of player who does a lot with nano boost. He doesn't usually need a tactical visor. Him with a nano boost is like having a visor anyway. It's a very accurate player. But unfortunately, he needs to pick up something a little bit more because he has been blocked out by tanks. Now Nuns straight on top of him, takes out a support as well. Just going window shopping, just going AHQ window shopping. I'll take a Dizzy, I'll take a Crappy, and I'll take your point on second streets phase as well. AHQ losing a lot of members here. This defense is definitely falling apart. I've kind of praised AHQ as a good defensive team. But I guess that's Season 1 AHQ, because so far for Season 2 AHQ, they've had some good moments. Lunar was great. Kings Row was good. Not the best, but was good. Lijiang, a little bit left to be desired. And so far on Dorado, I mean, this is potentially a worse display by AHQ than even Lijiang. And that's got to be a concern for the team. As now they're behind on ultimates. If they were barely winning when they were ahead on ultimates, you have a situation where Machi are definitely ahead on ultimates. Machi has so far gotten a lot done despite being behind. Look for this man Kant in his next pulse bomb. We know he's been accurate. We know he's been racking up the kills with the pulse bombs so far, at least in the past 2 days. There it is, just right on cue, right on mark. The man does not miss with pulse bomb. Carries is one of the big players for AHQ as well. So here comes Dragon Blade number 3 now, picks up Dizzy as per usual. Just getting the shopping list out. Might have to expect an angry text from the girlfriend though. Forgot to pick up the rest of the items, but maybe the rest of Machi will be able to do that for him. Rapid goes down to no talk. Still pushing on through, I'd say fairly quickly. A little bit more of a token resistance defense now from AHQ. It's going to be sound barrier aggressively from AHQ to try and push back Machi, but Already dropping members here. Now Dizzy with the tactical visor. Uses it rather early, straight into the primal range. This is not where you want to be, but luckily, fortunately, does get pushed out into the open, so is able to add a little bit more damage. You do have to think for D-Crown, you wanted to keep Dizzy away. You wanted to keep Dizzy into the spawn and not where he can shoot your team. Mistakes were made. But still, Machi have a little bit of time here. What you don't want to happen as much is you do not want a repeat of King's Row and Lunar again, where you have to wait until overtime to push on through. Might just be the nail in the coffin for Machi if that's the case, because good defense or not for AHQ, their attacks have been good. You can't, yep, gets a double kill. One of them was him himself. He doesn't even have to get a stick. He just somehow gets a kill. The guy is just always knowing where to drop these with nuns. Back to the supermarket, picks up carries rather early now. D-Crown taking Dizzy for him. Shopping with your friends was always a little bit of fun. 35 seconds now remaining. AHQ do push back, and this is definitely looking like Machi attempting another overtime push. And this is a series that Machi's going to have to go back on and look very closely, because consistently pushing on through in the overtime is not where you want to be against a team. That being said, it's better than not pushing on at all. You have cap 1, you have cap point B as well. You got that working out for you, but if you're a pro team, you want to be finishing maps here without going into overtime. Transcendence now from carries, and this is going to give Crappy some time to build sound barriers. So crucially for Machi Esports, they're going to have to wait out 2 defensive ultimates, even trade so far, but killing Rapid and Dizzy is a good trade. Ooh, nuns, that is very unlucky. In fact, I think HQ might be able to hold this one. Machi, Wadka's unfortunately running out a little bit for this team. They're cutting it closer and closer every single map. Overtime is checking out. Dizzy uses the tactical visor. There's not really anyone there to continue keeping the card alive. And indeed, HQ complete their defense. Carry is even going on to Doomfist right at the end for good measure. There's an AHQ team that's saying, I think we got this. Carries looks over to Crappy and says, yeah, we can do this. Hiki and Dizzy feeling much like I am right now, a little bit thirsty, but we're getting through it. Just like AHQ, we're getting through this. AHQ are not that far off now from completing the 3-1 victory against Machi Esports. And it is an interesting storyline. You really do start to consider. You think about where they've been coming from. You look at Lijiang, probably their best performance so far. And you look at King's Row, gets it over the line into the overtime. Had a little bit more time to play with, a little bit more comfortable. You look at Lunar Colony, much less comfortable. Every single map that we see Machi, they get a little bit less comfortable. They get a little bit slower. They get a little bit less momentum to really push on through the final cap. And then finally on Dorado, they run out of that momentum completely. The fuel is gone, the tank is empty, and they don't get it over the line. So for the first time in the series, we're not going to see a time bank. Not that the time banks have been helping Machi anyway. The time banks have not been helping Machi, but we have been getting there. And if you're gonna do something, if you're gonna lose, you are gonna want to lose at least in that overtime to say that you did cap on throughout, which you're not gonna be able to say about Dorado. Not anymore. We've seen some pretty good attacks coming out from HQ so far in various different fashions as well. Not even just one way. They've been pushing on through with heavy tank lineups. Face a soldier, seeing the Widowmaker as well. So Rapid now onto the Reaper. Gotta say, HQ have looked the most flexible on their attack. They've definitely been exploring different options. Smart what Dizzy's doing. A lot of players do not check in that sort of upper area. I'm not talking about the roof, I'm talking about the little canopy area. Dizzy checking that place. Not a lot of players check that place, so it's good that HQ do. Certainly have been surprised by a few Korean teams in scrims, I'm sure. Not a lot of resistance from Machi so far. You had a couple tanks just tickle the Khan. That being said, that the Khan's movement is rather slow at the moment. Eventually, Machi got to do something. Here comes No Talk. Should be swapping places with the tanks. Down goes D-Crown. So these two tanks are going to be swapping positions. As soon as one tank goes up, the other comes down. Unfortunately, D-Crown, he didn't make it all the way up, which means he does get taken down by Rapid on the side. And now, with only one tank, this defense doesn't really work. Cat's got to do a lot of work. If he doesn't do the work, the defense doesn't last. So far, he is doing that work, but Busy strikes back. Carry strikes back as well. Good news for Machi is I think that was a hit from Kiyomi, so great sleep on the Rapid. So taking a bit of a snooze there. Does get a Transcendence out of Machi as well. A little bit surprised by the Transcendence. You would have liked to have kept that for a future fight, but it does make AHQ back off. So breathing space for Machi is what they're looking for, and they do get that. They're out of ultimates. They have no ultimates right now. Getting close to a nano, getting close to a pulse bomb. We know what Kant can do with these pulse bomb. We know his ability to get kills. He does kill himself, but hey, you get kills either way. He'll take it. Actually need a little bit more here. So far, this has been a little bit slow. This is not as quick of an attack as you would have thought. Kant, one of the few times, doesn't pick up a pulse bomb kill so far. Now AHQ pressing the go button. Sound barrier coming out once more aggressively. Rapid still holding onto the pulse bomb. I guess the token takeaway for Machi is they've forced AHQ to play a slower first cap than theirs. Machi had a great first cap, much faster than this. AHQ were non-existent on that first cap. If AHQ messed up anywhere, if they had anywhere to look back on for this match, it had to be that first cap because everything else started to look much better until we got the third cap and AHQ looked nigh impenetrable. But AHQ, they got to be the drill this time. They have to be the shovel that digs their way through Machi Esports. First shovel does dig in directly onto Kant. He'll be the first casualty of the Streets phase push. Does he work his way around the side? Surprised the crowd not challenging him directly. There it is. He's just kind of going, he's not really challenging him. Does he giving up the high ground? Does collect the kill though. Now going back on the high ground again. The cart does move up for free, but the cart distance is bad. And the reason it's bad is because No Talk stopped it up. So despite AHQ collecting a lot of kills, despite Machi losing the defense on the high ground further back, they got stopped up, and the objective of the card is what actually matters. So all those kills, unfortunately for naught, didn't get the results to show for it. Nothing to go off on. Now they get to push all over again. Eric picking up a kill, pretty crucial, gets slept, so good night, Gorilla. Even with a little bit of a groan there. Now Dizzy's still onto the high ground, so still need options against this. Nuns goes down with the tech visor. The cart with that kind of distance remaining kind of says Nuns will likely not be back in time to be effective for this defense. Because AHQ are not stopping this. Unrelentless right now. The defensive Transcendence should stall for a little bit of time. Nuns may indeed still get back here in time. Pulse bomb from Kant. Second one he's missed so far here. Double kill into Eric anyway. Transcendence now from carries to keep the team alive. And now the tech visor from Nuns. So enough time was bought, but not enough time for Kant for Nuns to be useful. Not enough time for the tech visor to be of any real effect. So half correct, half wrong, I guess. 3 minutes and 30 remaining. A lot more time to work with for AHQ. Also a lot more ultimates to work with. But remember, we have seen AHQ in similar positions where they have an ultimate advantage where, despite being so far ahead, fail to really take advantage and press forward with this ultimate advantage and convert it into further advantages down the line. Gotta get rid of Kant as well. Stopping up the cast. You can't be an AHQ team with contested cart. Rapid with the pulse bomb kill now. Doing what Kant has so far not done on his round of defense. Kant go and taking a fall again. Whoa, D-Crown with the triple kill. Primal range and close calls. Looking for number 4, actually might just get it, actually backing off. A little bit surprised by that. We are starting to see now AHQ Esports not able to push on forward despite ultimate advantage. And so while they did have an ultimate advantage, it was a little bit minor. I think they had 2 ultimates ahead. They now have no ultimates ahead. The same problem that has been plaguing AHQ this entire series. Consistently being economically ahead, but either not realizing it and not executing it, or a combination. Failed jump by D-Crown. Gonna have to go back on that. More ultimates now from Machi Esports. Nice punch to the face. Good headshots from the fireball coming up from Gary's. Now's going to be firing up his tech visor here as the Transcendences do come out and look for your life. Dodges the self-destruct. Restil gets taken down. And now the tech visors come into play, whereas Nuns hasn't got any kills. In fact, his teammates are going down all around him. Kant goes down, Neutral goes down, Nuns. What has he been doing? Where's that tech visor been? Goes down, doesn't have anything to show for that either. Remember, AHQ do not have to cap the Kant fully. They just have to get it into that yellow box right before the cap. E-Crown makes it out of spawn to get a little bit of stall, and Kant's alive as well, but the members are falling. Self-destruct will buy some time. Perhaps not enough time. They need a little bit more time than this still. They're not getting any kills. Finally gets a mech, but they need more. Nuns diving into the fray. Not what you want to do as Soldier, but also doesn't have really a choice. I do believe this is going to be a cap on through 3-1. Now the expected victory for AHQ. Have to be a miracle for Machi to hold on to this, and I don't think they have any miracles left. They've had some really good attacks and defenses in this game, but it has been looking more and more dire as the game progresses. Now trying to challenge Dizzy, but they got so many targets. Even if you do get Dizzy, what is your option against Rapid? How do you take down Eric? Dizzy's just one man among 6, which are all problematic for Machi and AHQ. The final victory lap now. Celebration dances on the card itself, and 3-1. That is going to be the scoreline in AHQ. Convincing fashion into the later half of the series. Did struggle on the first map, Control. Lijiang Tower, that wasn't their map. They had a lot of issues there. Machi definitely played better. That was a well-deserved win for Machi. Something they can walk away proud of. The other 3 maps, unfortunately, going to be the opposite. Nitor, collect the high fives there. Rapid doesn't get a high five, he gets a fist bump instead, so work harder. I'm just kidding, Rapid did a great job. Really wanted to see that triple kill from D-Crown, Primal Rage. Thought that's quite impressive also because we didn't get to see his perspective, but you know, hopefully be able to bring that one up in the replays. Either case, 3-1 victory now for AHQ Esports in a fairly clean sweep on the second half of that. Collecting a few handshakes as well, well deserved. And Machi, number 5 team from Season 1 up against the number 3 team from Season 1. If those standings are anything to go by, Machi are going to have to sit at number 5 or at best at number 4. With AHQ still firmly holding on to their lead over Machi, and now across 2 seasons, our scoreline is 5-0 in AHQ's favour. So Machi got a little bit to step up with, and I think the statement was new AHQ lineup versus old Machi lineup. New AHQ lineup does win, but a little bit of glimpses of success for Machi in the earlier stages. We had Lijiang, which was good for them. Still not a perfect Lijiang. They didn't get a 2-0 there. They had to drop 1. Then you had a King's Row, which did look somewhat promising. Nuns on the Doomfist, I think, is going to be a threat to look out for, especially for Rapid. Still feeling that one in the draw. Should be feeling that one for the next week. So if a Rapid doesn't calm properly, if his jaw's a bit loose, it's because of Nuns and those rocket punches. So far the best Doomfist we've seen performance-wise from any player, despite there being relatively few players to have really gone that way. Who knows, might see a little bit more of that in the future. Scoreline for Machi now in this season is 3 maps to 3 maps, or more accurately, 1-1 in matches. We're going to go into the first replay now. It's going to be the attack on through from, I believe it's Machi, with the Mercy defense, and this is probably the worst place for AHQ so far. This is definitely where they struggled the most. This was a very quick cap on through from Machi, not a lot of resistance there, and you slightly question the Mercy play because you see what the Mercy's trying to do there. You're damage boosting Dizzy, he's on the high ground, he's a soldier. Yeah, you can put that on paper, that kind of works out for you, but Crappy died very early, and that's when it kind of really falls apart now with second replay of the game. Yep, now, second replay taking part in third cap, and this is where Machi gets stopped up. You see a little bit of bonus move from Kent, doing a little bit of what Rapid was doing against Liberant Supreme on Eichenwald. Just trying to sneak the card on through. Really good effort by the team in general, but couldn't pick up the kills. The sound barrier was a bit of a nail in the coffin for the Machi side. Just didn't have the damage remaining. You have Restia, you have D-Crown there, but you have no DPSs. You just don't have the damage it takes to get and kill a full wave of respawners from the AHQ side. So unfortunate. But we did say that for Machi Esports, it looked like every single map onwards, that final cap through was more and more difficult. For Kings Row, they only barely got it through. With a little bit of time to play with. For Lunar Colony, they almost didn't get it on through. Then Dorado finally, and almost poetically, they actually didn't get it on through. So AHQ's defense did look a little bit better, and Machi's attack a little bit worse. Should be interesting to see AHQ's perspective as well on their offense. And I think their offense, a real big takeaway for the offense in general before we actually look at it is a slower first cap than Machi to start things out with. But overall and generally, better gameplay. So we're going to get into that replay now. This should be the final moments when we do see a cap on through review shortly. It is one of those situations where, again, one of the problems for AHQ, being a hit in ultimates, but not really taking advantage of that. See the perspective of Dizzy as well, slept in the middle of one of the pushes. Restia going down, Kiyomi following very closely as well, for Machi is definitely spelling the doom. And they didn't have the ultimates either, they didn't really have the ultimates to contest, and that was when Nuns used attack visor, and you had to start to question where was the attack visor? Or was he placing it? Who was stopping him from the AHQ side? Certainly it wasn't really Nuns' fault that you could say, but well played by the tanks of AHQ to stop that one up. But it didn't take a lot. It didn't take a lot for AHQ to really push on through. But the only real question remains is, you know, how are AHQ going to play their economic situation against, unfortunately, I have to say, better teams. You know, when we get Flash Wolves back in, when we get Blank Esports back in here, even when Ardian shows up, what then do AHQ do in terms of ultimates against those sides? It's definitely going to be a bit of a challenge if they're making mistakes down. Now we're going to get into the post-match interview, which I'll be translating over, and that's going to be with Hihi. So hello, I am 407. So I couldn't choose Hihi as my only ID, so I had to add the 407 on the end. But I think 407 is his birthday, if I heard that correctly. So did you feel Machi's improvement in this match? I feel like we actually played worse. I feel like we made mistakes. I feel like we don't normally do that. Do you have any questions, Baby Nee?
就这个版本就是慢慢的转向一些地图都可以尝试做一个平推阵。那你觉得对你们团队来说的话是好？
So you play a lot of round push teams. So we're very used to playing the heavy tank lineups, slow push. So it's not like last season where we were experimenting. We're a lot more experienced now. So your new player, how has that affected your lineup? So Rapid's been playing only Tracer, mainly. How does that affect your lineup? Actually, Rapid's the most flexible. He's got a lot of heroes he hasn't played, it's shown yet. And actually, if I sit next to him, I often tell him he's the best player. So he actually joined quite late to the team. But he practiced really hard, despite joining late. He really wanted this.
现在毁灭拳王算是版本里面算是蛮强势的一个角色，那你们队伍有没有人会想拿出来用呢？
So what about Doomfist? We haven't discovered who our Doomfist player is. Everyone kind of wants to play it, and I want to play it too, but we haven't decided who.
在最后一边防守的时候，他说老子他妈的不要。
So someone did bring it out in the final moments, but people said, and I think he said something he wasn't meant to say there, unfortunately. I think Carries was the one that actually brought it up right at the end there. So that is now the interview done up from Hihi from the AHQ side. We're about to head into the next match, which is all going to happen after a break. 3-1 scoreline. HQ defeat Machi Esports. Coming up next is going to be, I believe, it is Hong Kong Attitude versus Mega Thunder, and that's going to happen right after this, so don't go anywhere.